r/NoSleep. Posted by you/already user 49. My plane crashed on a strange island. I'm the survivor. Message 1. My name is George Isaac Fisher. I am 31 years old. I live, or used to live in California, Los Angeles, 2396 St. Mary's Avenue. I'm a plane crash survivor, US Plus Airlines, Flight 7261. I don't know if this bottle will make it to the land. The odds are against me and probably no one will ever read this. I'll write it all down anyway because there's hope. There's hope that someone might notice the bottle floating around on the water surface, and decide to see what's inside. There's not much space on this paper. That's why I'll put more than one message in the bottle in order to tell the whole story. If you're reading this, send help. Do something. Post it online, on Facebook, YouTube, Reddit, wherever. Just let the world know. Don't just throw away this bottle, please, you're my only hope. I'm not sure about my location, all I know is that I was on the plane to Marseille. It took off from LA. That was my first, and probably the last time flying. I've never really liked heights or airplanes. Being sealed in the aluminum tube at 40,000 feet just wasn't tempting enough for me. When I found out a paid vacation to France was the reward for being the employee of the year, I kind of changed my mind. I had been looking forward to visiting Calanques National Park and Velodrome Stadium. I was excited about the trip until I had to get on the plane. All the worst thoughts struck me at once. I hesitated for a bit, before getting aboard. I thought about canceling the whole thing. Everyone was waiting for me to finally step into the tube. Then I let out a sigh and said to myself, what's the worst thing that could happen? Halfway there, the engine caught fire. After the cabin pressurization system had failed, we were all rushing to take those oxygen masks. The cabin started shaking. I was sure I was going to die. I can still hear the echoed voice of the flight attendant. Everybody stay calm. Remain in your seats. Assume the emergency position. This will all be over soon. That's what she said. The landing is kind of blurry in my memory, like it was all just a dream. You know when you wake up, and you can't remember the dream you woke up from? Was it really just a dream? I was thinking with my face on the window glass. I was positioned perfectly to only see through that oval-shaped window. All I saw was turquoise water surface and mild waves. It seemed like a looped version of the thing I loved the most, as if it was the final thing I would see before entering eternity. I kept looking mindlessly at those calming waves of the Atlantic Ocean. It was beautiful. Water. So simple yet so deep. 30 feet from there, I noticed the land. I didn't pay attention as I was sure I was dead. The scenery seemed too unreal to be true. A plane partly in the ocean near an island with me in it, without a scar. To me, it seemed like a waiting room for heaven. Except I wasn't dead. I figured that after my nose began to hurt. I survived the plane crash. I started laughing hysterically once I realized. I guess that's how one reacts when the impossible becomes possible. I stopped doing that when I heard a noise coming from the back. Someone, or something, was banging on the plane door. Am I already rescued? I was thinking while peeking over my seat. The banging continued. After the loudest noise, the door broke open. I considered shouting to let the rescue team know there were survivors, or at least one. But I decided not to, instead I kept looking. I froze when I saw a man with a gun wearing a Charlie Chaplin mask. What the hell is going on? I was trying to find a reasonable explanation. I was looking at the tall man in a black suit. He was walking away from me, towards the very end of the plane. He was observing every single passenger on his way. He then stopped after a few seconds. Someone was alive there. He pointed his gun at what seemed to be a young woman, and without hesitating a second, pulled the trigger. I couldn't believe it. I tried to remain calm even though I was shocked and scared as hell. He continued to look for alive ones while getting farther away from me. I had enough time to run to the front plane door. I was seriously considering doing that before he starts clearing the other part of the plane. While he was walking slowly between the seat rows, a kid sitting across from me stood up and intercepted the flow of my ideas. He must have passed out due to the lack of oxygen. He didn't seem hurt. The boy looked at me with blood on his face, although I don't think it was his. He was probably 13. I didn't know what to do. The kid turned around and looked at his parents. They were dead. He started breathing heavily and looked at me again. I needed to say something, anything. Stay down. I know it sucks, but play dead. Please. He of course didn't listen to me and started screaming. I looked at the masked guy immediately. He turned around and began to walk towards me and the kid while not changing his walking speed. I had to react, fast. Hey kid, look at me. He wasn't listening. Get down. You hear me? Charlie Chaplin was getting closer and I didn't have much time. My heart was racing. Save the kid or save yourself. I chose not to be a coward. I played dead but peeked occasionally. When the masked guy pointed his gun at the frightened boy, I jumped out of my seat and grabbed his arm. The guy dropped the gun when I hit his hand against the edge of the seat. I tried punching him but he dodged it and threw me over the shoulder. He was incredibly strong for such a skinny man. He started choking me on the floor. The strength of his grip was unreal. I tried to move his arm but I was too weak. I could feel my face turning red, everything started to seem blurry, I was about to pass out. Then, after a very loud noise, his grip loosened. I was able to breathe again. My vision was clear enough to see that monster fall on its back with a hole in the mask. While still on the floor, I turned around. The kid had taken the gun while I was wrestling Charlie Chaplin and shot him in the head. I got up and he gave me the gun. Then, I hugged him. He was shaking and so was I. After wiping the blood off of his face, I asked him about his name. David. He answered quietly. Listen to me, David, we need to stick together and escape this island. He nodded. I let out a sigh and turned around. The airplane looked different. With all those dead people, it looked like a scene from a horror movie. I looked down at the masked guy. Why would anyone do such things? David, I said while still looking at Charlie Chaplin. Let's see who's behind the mask. Content of the message displayed as is. Hey, it's still me, George. I ran out of space there. I hope this paper will be enough to finish converting my journey into a written story. It's sad, really. Imagine surviving a plane crash just to be killed by a maniac minutes after. A maniac whose identity was revealed. Behind the Charlie Chaplin mask, a young redhead was hiding. He was barely an adult. After searching through his pockets, we found out that he carried only one item. A plate number. 104. No ID, no wallet, only an old phone which was useless for us. I was looking at his pale face while David was walking around the airplane. I had only one thought in my head. Why? Then, I looked at the bullet wound on his forehead. Why did you do this to yourself, kid? While I was absently looking at his face, I noticed something attached to his neck. Should we use that phone? Maybe call someone? David asked from the other part of the plane. No service, kid. I replied while staring at the thing behind the guy's neck. What are you looking at? He asked and came to me. Nothing. I answered and got up. Let's take something we might need and go. He nodded and we got away from the body. I took a fedora from a deceased passenger and David got himself a brand new phone. Oh come on David, I chuckled. If we're gonna stay on the island for long, I don't want to get bored. It's also unlocked. He answered and smiled. Okay kiddo, at least save some battery, it might come in Han. Boom, a loud blast out of nowhere made us fall. I hit my head on the floor and beneath me, I could feel some jelly-like lumps. There was blood everywhere. The hissing sound was unbearable. I had no idea what happened and, for the third time that day, I thought I was dead. Everything was blurry, yet again. I started to slowly lose consciousness. I was out for probably 15 minutes. After waking up on the floor covered in blood, I got up to investigate. I approached the redhead's body. His head exploded. There were brain pieces all over the plane. That's undoubtedly what I felt and touched. I even found a part of his skull next to him. I couldn't handle it so I threw up. The thing on his neck was either a bomb or an indicator. It had to do something with the explosion. Was the bomb on his back? I was thinking. Why was it connected to his head? The only explanation was that taking the mask off caused it. One way to make sure someone keeps their identity a secret. Whoever this guy worked for, they were not playing around. I was thinking. Killing innocent people and blowing off someone's head doesn't sound benevolent. David, who suffered a mild head injury, got up and approached the 104. I looked at him and told him. We have to leave this plane and get on that island. Now. Can you swim? I don't know. He replied shyly. You'll have to try. Come on, it's not too deep. We got to the door that former Charlie Chaplin had opened for us, but we stopped when we heard a helicopter. We were looking up as the sounds of the rotor were getting louder. It landed on the top of the plane with a deep sound that echoed through the cabins. David thought we were saved. Other than rescuers, who would drive a helicopter to the island anyway? Although, I wasn't optimistic. I thought there were more Charlie Chaplins ready to kill us both. I didn't believe it was anything other than evil. That's, inter alia, the consequence of such an experience. If I hadn't witnessed multiple murders that day, I'm sure I would have thought they were rescuers. But after everything we saw, everything we did, I could only hope. I will always be afraid of the unknown and my trust is gone forever. It's strange how one day can change one's perception once and for all. Well, we were both wrong. We were neither saved nor killed. Through the open door, after the helicopter engine had stopped, we saw a huge net falling from the sky. It seemed like it was connected to the helicopter, ready to fly away with it. David was ready to jump in, but I stopped him in the nick of time. "Wait," I said while still observing the net. After a few seconds, two masked guys climbed down the net. We were able to hide in time and watch. The masked men started dumping the dead in the enormous net. They did it incredibly fast. That was not their first time for sure. Grab the legs, grasp the arms. Lift the body, throw it like it's hot. One by one, they treated them like toys. I could hear the haunting sounds of the bones crashing in the net, underneath the pile of bodies. We watched in terror as Charlie Chaplins were getting closer to the exploded body. I was afraid that they would find it and kill us if they suspected anything. So I decided to do something to prevent it. Under the plane seats, I carefully crawled out of our hiding spot. I got up. I was ready to run to the body and throw it in the ocean. The guards weren't close enough to see me. Everything was perfectly set up for me. I just needed to pull the guard's body away from them. My heart was racing as I was basically running for my life. I grabbed the headless body and started dragging it. That's when I got an idea. Okay, 61, we're done with this cabin. Call 104 again, I don't know why he's not answering. Got it. The other guy replied. Shortly after, a phone in my pocket rang. I struggled with answering it, my vision was very limited under the Charlie Chaplin mask. Yes? I said. 104. What the fuck are you doing? We're in the plane and you still haven't returned. Where even are you? Oh, I'm sorry, this one took more time than usual, so I'm still in the plane. Let's talk in person, then, he said and hung up the phone. I let out a sigh and turned around to look at David. He understood what I was trying to accomplish. I started walking towards them with my heart racing. I was scared they would notice I was the imposter. So much could go wrong. And it did. I was looking through the eyes of Charlie Chaplin. The mask was partly broken because the bullet went through, but it was enough to cover my face. I was ready to shoot them all, or at least gather some information. After getting close enough to the part of the plane they were in, I pointed the gun at a Charlie Chaplin. They copied my move immediately, so that looked like a Charlie Chaplin Western showdown. 3 of us, guns pointed at each other. Who are you people? I yelled. Put the gun down, 104. One of them replied. 104 is fucking dead, tell me who you are and why you're doing this. None of them answered my questions. Instead, they cocked the gun hammer. That's when David decided to interfere. He started begging for my life and got in the middle of the Charlie Chaplin Trinity. David, no, I shouted. And before I could even react, one of them pulled the trigger. I immediately looked down at my chest. I was desperate to find the bullet wound, but there wasn't any. I wasn't the one who got shot. I looked at David. Through the mask, I could only see his figure fall on its knees. David got shot. I fell on my knees too. It felt like someone did fire the bullet straight through my heart. I didn't know how to react or what to do. I was shocked and scared. But that feeling slowly started to turn into anger. You. I struggled to talk. You'll pay. Quickly, I aimed at the killer, and that time I didn't hesitate. Bang! One Charlie Chaplin down. The other guy rushed to reload his gun he didn't plan to use. I pulled the trigger once again, but the clicking sound was everything I heard. I dropped the gun and ran to him instead. I punched him before he could finish reloading. I kept doing that until his mask was broken. My knuckles were bleeding and his jaw was mutilated. I didn't even remove the mask fully, I just didn't care who he was. Somehow he was still conscious, so I took his gun to finish the job. I considered not killing him so he could tell me everything I needed to know. But wrath is the man's worst enemy. I reloaded the gun and aimed at his head. Bang! Hello again. This is the final message. What a journey this was. The messages, I mean. I really enjoyed reading it after so long. I laughed at how scared I was. I remember, that night when I killed those 2 helpers, I spent the whole night writing all this. On the plane wing. I was looking at the island while writing the messages. I thought I was going to be saved. Silly me. I would have never remembered I even wrote all this if I hadn't gone exploring today. An old crashed plane in the water. Who wouldn't want to see what's inside? A bunch of corpses, abandoned suitcases, blood. And a bottle. It caught my eye because it was on the wing, standing on its bottom. As if someone wanted to throw it in the ocean but changed their mind and left it there. Since the journey seemed unfinished, I decided to add this to clear some things. The guests, or aliens, as you all call them, chose an island a long time ago. They hid it from the outside world so nobody could bother them while they were learning. Learning? Yeah. They've been preparing for life on Earth for almost a millennium. Occasionally, they turn on the gigantic magnet they brought, hidden beneath the sand. That's how they attract planes flying across that area so they can experiment on us. I even witnessed an experiment once. It's not pleasant to watch, so I will not describe it. They also need helpers. Their role is to do the messy jobs, finish the plane batches, bring the humans to the master in a net. After she approves it, they send them to the students who then cut, crush, and pour, in order to learn more. Helpers are the only ones who wear masks. Apparently, Charlie Chaplin was the choice because he looked like a human the most. To become a helper, you need to kill a person while wearing the mask. After completing that, it will send the needed stimulus to the brain overnight. They are chosen based on their physical strength and age. So, instead of killing the passenger, helpers will sometimes make him wear a mask and force him to kill a person to become one of them. You must never take off the mask, once you become the helper. Doing so will activate the advanced micro bomb that will blow your head off. Might be delayed sometimes. The master can't be described using words, but the students look just like us. Except they have 6 eyes and purple skin. They're also extremely short. I know this is not me. Deep in my heart, I suffer. While reading my messages, I had almost awakened my true feelings when I remembered David. I almost cried. Unfortunately, my real emotions will always be buried under the programmed ones. There's nothing I can do to change that. Nobody can find this island. Maybe they will free us all when they move out and infiltrate. Who knows? I should throw this bottle in the ocean and go now. There's a fresh plane batch waiting for me. So, if you're reading this, smile. Or cry. Think about anything that made you emotional. The freedom, the ability to feel. It doesn't matter how you're feeling. What matters is, you're feeling. Being angry, sad or scared is a lot better than feeling nothing and living an empty robot's life. Like me.